Okay, this is now the 5 Minute Tarot for the 27th of July 2017. And today I'd like to consider the Magician card and also give you an idea. And I'd like some kind of, I'm going to tell you something if you like to try it and let me know how you get on. It has to do with kind of the law of attraction, but it has to do with us trying to get something and getting it back. So, but I need to explain what I mean. And I think to do with the law of attraction, people write all sorts of stuff about it, but I think there's something missing with it. And not that the law of attraction doesn't work, but I think that we need to approach it in a certain kind of a way if we're going to get the results that we want. And it's not just a matter of imagining something and keeping your fingers crossed that it's going to happen someday. I think there can be a more scientific or more practical way of organizing things so that we actually get the results that we want. Okay, so a few days ago we looked at the letters A, or the letters A, R, and O in the word tarot, and we substituted major trumps. So A is the Magician, R is Judgment, and O is the Tower, according to what C.C. Zane tells us. And his method works extremely well. So A is the Magician card, and Wendy sent me an email and she said, I've got it, I have to read it here. She said, I think the Magician has a plan. He aims an arrow, hitting his target, and causes change. The arrow then arcs, and the aftermath of this effect causes, ensues, sorry. Okay, so this is what she said. So you got the idea of the arrow, and I wasn't sure which deck she was using. So I emailed and she said she was using the Rider deck. And then I realized that the Magician card, the Magician is holding this thing in his right hand. And I'd always looked at it as a magic wand, partly because the top and the bottom or both ends are the same. Whereas with an arrow, you've got a point, but the other arrow, you've got feathers and so on to help it fly or to give it direction. So Wendy's point, however, I think is valid because you can think of a wand and an arrow as being kind of similar. But it can get us thinking about if you fire an arrow, you're setting something in motion. And so with this particular card, with the Magician card, when it comes up in a reading, it can be important for the questioner to know what the goal is, or to get the questioner to think about what goal do they want to hit, or what direction do they want to go in, or what's going to be their target. So even if you think of the Magician holding a magic wand, he's still maybe going to point it somewhere. I'm thinking of not that I only saw one Harry Potter movie, but I think they point the magic wand and that sort of sends the force in that direction. So with a magic wand or an arrow, you've got the idea of outward movement or movement away from the questioner or away from the Magician. And that can be important to have an idea or a picture in mind of what direction you want to go in, or what target you want to hit, or what kinds of circumstances and conditions you want to create. So that's kind of an arrow and a magic wand in the Magician card. Some of the considerations or the questions you might ask if the card comes up in a reading. Whereas with Judgment, that's not really what's going on with Judgment. It's not about setting a goal or having an idea of where you want to go. It's more release from a difficult situation because you paid attention and you heard the angel blowing the trumpet and so on. Or with the Devil, it's not really about having a direction. It's more escaping from being confined. So Wendy's idea about the arrow made me wonder about thinking about what's coming back. Because if you fire an arrow, I suppose I've seen too many Hollywood movies of battle scenes where you've got 100 archers and they all fire their arrows over, but then the opposing army fires arrows back. So with the arrow, it's easy to think there's only one direction, there's only one movement away from the person firing the arrow. But maybe we should also consider with the magician card what's coming back. Because with the magician, instead of it being just the magician doing the acting, maybe it's a two-way street. So even though the magician is number one, and that can be single or somebody on their own, you're still involved with the world, or with people, or with plans, or with your own ideas and thoughts. Right? So it's not just about you thinking, it's also about what's coming back. So it's a two-way street. And that, I remember years ago reading somewhere about Newton's third law. And so for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that's a statement that you find all over the place. So I think the idea is that if you throw a ball, right, it doesn't go straight and then suddenly stop and go straight down. So you throw the ball, there's movement in one direction, but you've also got gravity that's pulling it in the equal and opposite direction. So if you throw a ball, it goes in an arc, not a straight line, and then suddenly it goes 90 degrees, turns 90 degrees and goes down. So what you've got is a pair of forces operating at the same time. And this can be what we're dealing with the magician card. So finally getting to the point, I think, of my starting, the point I made in the beginning. Let's say you want something. Let's say you want, I'm going to call it benefit A. There's something that you want from life, or a situation that you want to experience. So you start doing what it is to get you to where you want to go. But according to Newton's third law, maybe according to Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So maybe what we think is, okay, I want this, I want benefit A, but my wanting it and my setting out to get it, there's going to be someone or something producing resistance, or maybe putting up a barrier, right? In the same way that you throw the ball, and it doesn't just fly through the air, it encounters resistance from gravity. So equal and opposite reaction. But it occurred to me, what if the opposite reaction is the benefit coming to meet you? That's an opposite reaction, but it's not opposition in the way that it's trying to stop you. It's more like the opposite direction. Do you know what I mean? It's maybe that's what's going on with the law of attraction. We think the thought, or we decide that this is what we want, and it immediately starts coming to meet us. It's not that there's then resistance that we've got to overcome. But if we think, okay, I want this thing, but I haven't got it yet, so I'm going to have to work for it, and this thing's going to try and stop me getting it, that's putting up a barrier. Or maybe we want something, it immediately comes to us, but we don't recognize what's going on. So let's say you want $1 million. And I think to myself, okay, the only way I'm going to get $1 million is if I win a lottery. So I need to buy lottery tickets, or someone give me lottery tickets. But let's say I want $1 million. The $1 million, let's say, is already on its way to meet me. But it may not come the way I think it's going to come. So I'm assuming that, okay, I need to win a lottery, but maybe the $1 million is on its way, but it's coming through a different format, or a different channel than the one that I think. Because maybe what's going to happen is somebody's going to invest in you, and in that way you get the $1 million. And maybe you're going to write a book that becomes a bestseller, or maybe you're going to invent something that becomes a bestseller, or maybe you're going to solve a problem that is simple but nobody has thought of it. So the opposite. So we've got you want something, and you've got in your mind how you're going to get it, but your idea of how you're going to get it may be incorrect. But while you think that you know how you're going to get it, you're blocking what would naturally come to you. So the opposite reaction wasn't what you thought it was going to be. So you don't get the benefit A that you were looking for. And you think it's not working, but it is. But it isn't happening the way you thought it was going to happen, or the way that you expect it's going to happen, which can be the reason for assume nothing. But also to understand that if you want something and you think you don't have it, then you're going to be struggling or always working to try and get it. But maybe the opposite reaction is you want something, you've already got it. So pay attention to what's coming into your life, or what thoughts you're having, or what types of people and circumstances you're meeting, because it can be that the thing that you actually want is already within your orbit or within your life, but you just don't recognize it. That's probably not quite complete, but that's all I've got for you at the moment. So how about that? Think about what you want and maybe try it, and maybe wonder about the idea that the equal and opposite reaction is actually this thing that you've been wanting coming to meet you. So what you do is don't get in its way by thinking or assuming or imagining that you know what's going on. Okay, that may be half a talk or an idea, but it's what I've got for the moment. So I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. Okay, bye-bye.